For people from the diaspora or just period, people who want to start a business in Ghana, what I would definitely say is you need to do your research, look at what the market needs. A lot of times we think as entrepreneurs or people who want to do business, we want to almost bully our solutions into a market. Don't do that. Whatever the solution is, make sure you're actually solving a problem. Know what problem you're solving. That's important. And then make sure it's a problem to the people within this space, as in Ghana. Hi everyone, my name is Lakisha Marie Ford. I am the founder and CEO of Ford Communications, which is a strategic communications company. I live in Ghana, I do business in Ghana, and I've been here for 8 years. The first time I came was when I was a student many moons ago. But essentially, I've had the vision to support further connecting the diaspora to the African continent. And what better way to do that than through storytelling and supporting Ghanaian and African businesses connect with the international market. So PR. I do PR. I use PR as a vessel to really keep us connected, to support businesses accomplish their goals. And really it's a labor of love, because in the process of doing that work, I get to develop, I would say, a more wholesome narrative of the African continent. You know, we're kind of all thirsting for the African continent to be properly represented. And, you know, for the work I do through Ford Communications and my special projects, I think is supporting or contributing to that. So that's me. Anything that I do is literally about accomplishing that goal. What inspired my decision to move to Ghana? To be honest, it was cumulative. It really all started with my study abroad trip to Beijing, China, actually. So I went to China to study Mandarin Chinese and Chinese history. And during that year, there was a huge influx of Chinese operations on the African continent. And that really sparked my interest. I was curious, like, you know, why are the Chinese going to Africa? So that opened my eyes to, or even I would say opened my curiosity for the African continent. My first African country was Senegal, and then really the rest is history, because I needed to study abroad to fulfill one of my requirements for my majors. And we had to study abroad somewhere. So it was either between Ghana or South Africa. And I had some girls from Ghana in my econ class, and they were like, what? There's no question. You need to go to Ghana. Like, start in Ghana. So really, the rest is history. That inspired me. My study abroad trip to Ghana is what really sparked everything. And while I was here, you know, when you come to Ghana, you have a good time, especially if it's with a program or it's a short-term thing. We had a great time. I had a great time, but I was truly convicted while I was here, because, you know, naturally, you're in your teens. I think I was like 19 years old. You know, I was like, this is not what they show us about the African continent. What I saw was totally opposite. And I was super inspired to really open up people's minds to the truth and the reality of what the African continent is. Obviously, starting with Ghana, because that's where my trip was, or my experience was. Moving to Ghana for me was cumulative, right? I feel like I had been moving to Ghana for years. I started out as a student. That was a structured program. I got to go to different parts of the country and experience different parts of, you know, different cultures here in Ghana through my program, which is NYU in Ghana. I was a student at Spelman College, but the study abroad program was NYU in Ghana. So fast forward 5 years later, I was awarded a fellowship, the Bourne Fellowship, which brought me back to Ghana. It brought me back to Ghana after my master's degree, and I was looking at the impact of Chinese trade, focusing on the telecommunications and mining sector. That brought me back and was really a part of the time that I decided to stay. And, my research was slow. Who wants to talk to anybody that's coming to study the impact of Chinese trade when there's galamsey and all these things? No one would talk to me. So I literally had to travel through Ghana to the different mining sites and talk to people who were advocating, in terms of legal, human rights, environmentalists, and really extract the information that way in order to do my research. But because it was going slow, I would say, I had control of my time for the first time in my life. I mean, think about it. You're always in school or you're working, you're on a schedule. But this was the first time that I was on my own schedule and my research was slow. So, I essentially looked at what it was that I could do. There were things that really bothered me that I thought needed to be fixed. I always had it in the back of my mind that I do want to use some type of medium to connect the diaspora to Ghana and Africa. So I started writing. I started supporting restaurants with customer service training. This was a problem that I saw needed to be solved. So I actually started out doing customer service training, and then there were friends who were artists and needed support with writing and getting their information to the media. So I was doing all of this for free, really, basically PR and customer service training. And then it came to a point where people started to call me back and ask me to do the work and offer to pay. So I was like, okay, I think we have something here. So that was a part of my inspiration for starting my business. I got convicted to do Ford Communications really through a dream. I woke up one night and it was like, okay, this is what needs to happen. Connecting the diaspora to Africa, Ford Communications, at the center of Africa and audience. I literally wrote that down. So, between that dream and then, seeing the different problems to tackle within the space, all of those things sandwiched together really, I would say, were a part of my beginning in Ghana. And this is 2014, 2015, 2016, those times. That was before Year of Return, before it was hype and cool to come back. So that was my beginning, and I did do my research, and then at the end of the research, I was supposed to go back and really join the Foreign Service as a diplomat, public diplomacy, foreign service officer. That was, my big career goal. But instead of doing that, I decided to do my service here. And I eventually started my company here as a way to really accomplish this goal of connecting the world to the African continent and support Ghanaian businesses and innovators connect with their international audiences. I came to Ghana before Year of Return, decided to move before Year of Return. I kind of had my own Year of Return, but really when 2018 rolled around and the initiative around Year of Return started, I'm telling you, it was a dream come true. Because when I first came to Ghana, this was something that I wanted to see more of, right? Getting the world more interested in what's happening on the African continent, whether it be culturally or business-wise. So when I learned about it, naturally, with me being in PR, I connected, and my contribution to that was literally tapping into my culture. I'm Jamaican-American, first generation American born. So I started with my event, which was about connecting the Caribbean to Africa. We started, that was 2018, and I did it consecutively. And then last year, we elevated the concept to where it just wasn't just a party that happened during December. We really wanted to explore what the future of Africa and the Caribbean really is. It's when we talk about the Caribbean and Africa, it's generally around culture or history, but my curiosity was, okay, well, what are we beyond that? What are we beyond our history of what we know of each other and what we know of ourselves? Who is charting the trajectory for Caribbean and African relations? So Wood and Water was really birthed out of elevating the concept of bringing the diaspora to Ghana. It was really about seeing what we can do around business, investment, and pop culture. What's the future of Africa and the Caribbean? And this is what Wood and Water is all about. So yes, we started with Year of Return with my first event that I founded, and then we elevated the concept to Wood and Water, which is now endorsed by Beyond the Return, as well as the Jamaican Consulate and Office of Diaspora Affairs, and other private companies such as ZPay, which is a Ghanaian company on the forefront of connecting really the diaspora to Africa using fintech and remittances. They've supported us, and Wood and Water is also about highlighting the people that are on the forefront of chartering the future of Africa and the Caribbean. So that's some of our work around Wood and Water, and we just launched this past December, and it was received really well, honestly. Our business brunch, we had Jamaican companies fly in for the event. Literally, not, oh, I'm gonna be in Ghana, so I'll come to your event. No, they actually flew in for Wood and Water. I'm just grateful that Ford Communications has the ability and the team to create space to chart the future of Africa and the Caribbean, and really have the company has its hand in connecting the diaspora to Africa and connecting African, specifically Ghanaian businesses to international markets. I'm super grateful. My biggest accomplishment is running Ford Communications for the past 6 to 7 years consecutively. What that means is we've really been able to help so many companies and institutions, from your United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to World Remit, to companies from Ghana such as Mazuma and ZPay, really supporting companies accomplish their business goals, whether large institutions or local homegrown with global impact. Ghana is truly an emerging market, and when we say that, when I think about what Ford has been able to do, we've really had our hand in supporting businesses accomplish their goal in serving people. So I would say that is probably one of my biggest accomplishments, is being able to be of service to businesses from Ghana and as big as the United Nations and World Remit. Now, in addition to that, though, what I love is that we've taken it a step further by decentralizing diplomacy. Usually diplomacy is done by governments. It comes from one direction. But now with social media, the world is much smaller. anyone really can affect any change they want to see. So we've, I would say, taken our stab at doing diplomacy. You know, we want to see the future of the Caribbean and Africa. We want to know what that looks like. We want to inspire investment, trade, and pop culture connections between the Caribbean and Africa. And we've been able to do that through Ford Communications and Wood and Water. So I'm super proud about that. I love that we started as a party and now it has elevated to a festival, a business brunch that connects the two regions, connects people who want to invest in the Caribbean and connects people from the Caribbean that want to invest in Africa. We're really on the forefront of pushing that narrative. So I would say Wood and Water is also one of the things that I'm super proud of, because I think it has such a great foundation to affect change for both regions. I think Black emerging nations need to trade more. They need to engage more. It's not about looking at the West to see what is possible. You know, I think it's our time to really create our own possibilities and the solutions we want to see. We're not cutting out the West, no. You know, but think about it. How long have we been, you know, doing trade and developing ourselves from like emerging nation to Western nations? What about Black emerging nations? We need to now elevate our connections and our bilateral relations between ourselves. So I'm super excited about that and the future that holds. My favorite thing to do in Ghana, I love a brie. So as I shared, I'm Jamaican, so my family is from the country. A brie, listen, a brie looks like Lodge Cyrus Ochi in St. Anne's, Jamaica. Like, same place. The people look the same. The space looks the same. I love a brie, love going to the mountains for the weekend. There's a lot to do also in Accra, but it's super cool to come out of Accra sometime. Sunta Lounge, the beachfront space is beautiful. I love going to the beach. If it's not Kokobite or Axim, you know, it's cool to just hop over to Labadi Beach, you know, have brunch and then go to the beach, get your feet wet, and then just hang out. I love that. I'm a water girl, so that's my thing. A brie is cool because it also has the waterfalls. You know, there's a lot to get into. So there's that. And then, you know, there's super cool things to do also, such as like yoga, if you're really into that. I would say anything you want or anything you're into, you can find it in Accra. You can find it in Ghana. You just have to look. But my favorite things is nature. Love going to the mountains, love going to the beach, and it's super accessible because Accra we did. For people from the diaspora or just period, people who want to start a business in Ghana, what I would definitely say is you need to do your research, look at what the market needs. A lot of times we think as entrepreneurs or people who want to do business, we want to almost bully our solutions into a market. Don't do that. Whatever the solution is, make sure you're actually solving a problem. Know what problem you're solving. That's important. And then make sure it's a problem to the people within this space, as in Ghana. And I say Ghana because maybe you might not just be servicing Accra. You may service Takoradi. You may service the northern region. So do your research, know your audience, and know what problem you're solving. Number 2, do your due diligence on the people you're partnering with. Make sure there's a track record. There is an unspoken thing that happens here called vetting. We would call it research and due diligence, but What happens is you need to know someone that knows the person that you're going into business with. Or if you don't know anybody, that may potentially be a red flag. You gotta get someone who knows that person, because social proof is important. That's literally a part of the vetting process that nobody talks about. So that's one thing. And then get your legal documents in place. There's a lot of hype and attention around the African continent right now. And I see that, there's an influx of people who want to partner with creatives here in Ghana. I'll just talk about Ghana because that's where we are. And, sometimes we're super excited to work in partnership, but we don't necessarily have our legal frameworks in place. That's one thing that I would encourage any and everybody to do, whether you're local or you're international coming in. Make sure your intellectual property is protected. Make sure you have your operating agreement if you're doing a business together, or if you're forming a business together. Make sure your partnership agreements are clear. What's the exit clause going to look like? These are things no one's going to talk about. No one's going to tell you about them. You almost have to bump up into the walls to learn it. Thankfully, I've spent about 6 to 7 years bumping into walls. So that's free game, just quickly. So those are things that I would say definitely, you need to look at. And, follow Forward Communications, and we'll be putting out content on what people can expect if you want to do business in Ghana successfully. What keeps me persevering in the face of setbacks? I am very much a spiritual woman. So, it's very difficult to give advice, but I will say what works for me. So really and truly, my core, anything that I do, at the center of anything that you see with me is God. It's my faith. It's my practice on my faith. That's at my core. So when there's setbacks and there's challenges, I always revert back to my faith first and foremost, because the truth is, you're not always going to have an easy ride, especially in entrepreneurship, and then in entrepreneurship with Ghana at the backdrop of it. Doing business in an emerging market is never easy. But I always remember why I started. I remember that dream that I had about Forward Communications. I remember my vision, and I remember the people that I've been able to, support, and we've been able to support through my work. I think about them, and I think about the people past this moment that will be able to support if I keep going. So those are some of the things that keep me going in the face of setbacks. And to be honest, a lot of times we talk about, soft life. We're ready for soft life. And it makes sense, right? Because we work so hard. We're ready for soft life. But the truth is, for the journey, you have to be strong. You have to be strong. There's a certain strength that you need in order to have a sustainable journey and to have sustainable success. And you're not going to have that strength and that wisdom unless you have resistance. Resistance makes you stronger. Have you ever gone to the gym and lifted 2-pound weights and think that you're going to put on muscle the next day? No. You always need resistance. There's correspondence in that. So when I have my setbacks or challenges come, I think it is essentially my obstacle gym. It's the thing that has come to sharpen me. It's the thing that has come to prepare me for my next season. So I don't necessarily laugh at my obstacles, but I welcome them. I welcome them and I get on with it. I pray, I ask God for my strength, and I just keep it moving. Obviously, I don't want to portray as if I have the ultimate poise about setbacks, but that really is the truth. Centering my faith and knowing that this thing has come to sharpen me for whatever's next in the next season. As an entrepreneur, it is our duty to always be solving problems, and we have been working at solving that problem of the disconnect between Ghanaian businesses and the international market, or lack of access to the international market, as well as the problem of multinationals having difficulty with market entry into Ghana and throughout the African continent. But one thing that has come to me is that I see that emerging nations are not interacting with each other enough. I feel, it's not even my feelings, I'm seeing that we're leaving money on the table, we're leaving opportunity on the table by only looking at these spaces as party spaces or leisure spaces. We need those industries, you know, I'm not saying we don't, but I think it's time to expand how we engage with each other. So what's next for us? We'll definitely continue Wood and Water. Everybody is welcome to that journey. It's not just about people from Africa and people from the Caribbean. No, it's about the diaspora. It's about anyone who's interested in seeing these two regions really connect and reach its optimal potential. So you'll see more from us around Wood and Water, more programming around investment and trade. And then the big one, which hasn't launched yet, we're expanding the effort to include people from the diaspora that want to invest in Africa. So we haven't dropped it yet, but you can definitely look out and follow Ford Communications, follow Wood and Water for more when it comes to connecting these emerging nations around business, economics, and pop culture. We are literally doing our own diplomacy. I like to say that Black people, we are a stateless nation, and all nations need diplomacy. All nations need advocates. All nations need economics and trade and things of that sort. Who is actually doing the diplomacy for the stateless nation of Black people or the Black diaspora? That's Ford Communications, that's Wood and Water, and that's the future projects and partnerships that we welcome and plan to continue to grow. So that's what's next. Hi, this is Lakisha Marie Ford, CEO and founder of Ford Communications and Wood and Water Festival, and you are watching Face2Face Africa, the premier global Black voice.